Hi, today we will explain the storyline of a film titled Patricia Una Passion Escondida, which was released in 2020. Okay, let's get right to the story. Patricia is a couples therapist who has just published a book on sexuality. In an interview, Patricia explains how exposure to adult films can affect the intimate lives of married couples. According to her, adult material, such as films, videos, and so on, is an integral part of sexuality. But what has changed is the influence of technology and internet access, which allows for changes in a relationship. Moreover, if it is not done openly and healthily, it can affect closeness with a partner. Patricia advises readers to find more information in her latest book. A few minutes later, the interview ended. Meanwhile, on the other side, a student and photographer named Pablo had just finished a photo shoot with 3 models. He paid them each, but they felt the payment was insufficient. Pablo argued that his work was more than theirs. He still had to edit the photos, arrange the music, and promote his work, all of which required significant capital. Therefore, Pablo wouldn't pay them anymore. And besides, he still had to study for his classes the next day, so the photo shoot had to end. Pablo was also secretly dating a woman named Dolores, who was already married. When Dolores' husband wasn't home, she invited Pablo over and suggested they spend some time together. However, the woman didn't tell Pablo that her husband runs a security business, which made Pablo nervous. After their meeting, the woman gave Pablo some money to buy his textbooks, and they agreed to meet again later. Suddenly, he heard Dolores' husband coming home, so Pablo quickly escaped through the window. Meanwhile, at home, Patricia had prepared dinner with her maid, Carmelita. She then called her husband, Humberto, and her son, Miguel, to eat together. While having dinner, Miguel mentioned that he had an exam, so he planned to invite his girlfriend, Amanda, to study together at home. Hearing Amanda's name, Patricia couldn't believe her son was changing girlfriends every week. She finally asked Miguel not to bring his new girlfriend home so often. Miguel felt his mother was being too controlling, as if he were a patient, but Patricia reminded him that as long as he was living at home with her, he had to follow her rules. He could only be free if he had his own place. Hearing this, Miguel grew annoyed and left dinner early. Before going to bed, Patricia tried to talk to Humberto and asked about his day. Humberto said that his sales hadn't reached the trimester target and he was going through a crisis. Patricia offered to give him a massage to ease his mind, but her husband refused. As a result, Patricia decided to go to bed first. The next day, Patricia attended a yoga class before going to work, then spent the day as a couples therapist. After her practice hours ended, Patricia met her friend Rebecca for a drink. Patricia's friend asked if there were any patient cases they could discuss, but Patricia said it was unethical and confidential. They eventually exchanged updates about their relationships with their partners. Meanwhile, Pablo's mistress, Dolores, who is married, called Pablo. She panicked, telling him that the video of their affair had been leaked online and had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times in the past 12 hours. Pablo panicked and asked what the name of the video was, but the woman didn't know and hoped it wouldn't reach her husband. Pablo then asked Dolores not to contact him again, while he would delete all his social media accounts and email addresses, fearing her husband might find his location. Meanwhile, Miguel was hanging out with Amanda at a cafe. Amanda then met her friend Lorena and introduced Pablo. Pablo said he was a transfer student from the University of Guadalajara and was pursuing a master's degree in psychology. Miguel immediately interjected that his mother was a psychologist, which prompted Amanda to invite them to sit together and chat. Meanwhile, Dolores' husband, Lionel, had already heard about the leaked explicit video of a woman resembling Dolores. Even the tattoos matched, making Lionel increasingly certain it was indeed Dolores. He was furious because everyone at his office had seen the video. Dolores felt uncomfortable and hadn't expected this to happen, and Lionel intended to find the man in the video and confront him. Meanwhile, Patricia caught Miguel bringing a girl back to his room. She scolded Miguel for breaking his promise not to bring girls to the house again. But Humberto had allowed it, so Miguel naturally listened to his father. This made Patricia angry, especially since she and Humberto had been on bad terms lately because Humberto had been busy. She began to suspect that her husband was seeing another woman, but Humberto insisted that he was just tired. Eventually, Patricia gave in and chose to sleep in the guest room. The next day, Patricia saw Humberto packing his clothes. He was going on a business trip for a week. On the same day, Pablo visited his new friend, Miguel, at home, and then introduced himself to Patricia. They exchanged pleasantries for a moment, but Patricia had to leave for the clinic. Unexpectedly, Pablo visited Patricia at her clinic and admitted he needed her help to write his master's thesis. Patricia was happy to help Pablo. He explained that the thesis topic he had chosen was about how social media affects the quality of time spent together by couples, particularly in relation to adult content. Patricia then asked Pablo to give his email address to her secretary, Sandra, so she could send him some related articles and research findings from her colleagues. Pablo agreed and left Patricia's office. That evening, Patricia heard noise in the living room. It turned out that Miguel had invited some friends, including Pablo, Lorena, and Amanda. Patricia just wanted to say hello and asked them to keep it down because she wanted to rest. The next day, Miguel and his friends were still hanging out at his house. Patricia offered to order pizza or cook for them. Here, Pablo happily and enthusiastically helped Patricia in the kitchen. Patricia was completely unprepared for Pablo to flirt with her without Miguel knowing. But just then, Miguel entered the kitchen and asked how the food was coming along, so Pablo and Patricia pretended nothing had happened between them. Meanwhile, Dolores' husband was still trying to find out who the man who was with his wife in the video. For now, he only knew that the man was skilled at seducing married women, recording their affairs, and then uploading the videos on the internet. Therefore, Lionel insisted that he wanted to teach the man a lesson. On the same day, Patricia received a call from Humberto, who wanted to catch up with her. Humberto admitted that his client was happy with his offer and had signed the cooperation contract, but he wouldn't be returning for a few more days. Patricia reminded him that her birthday was coming up soon, and Humberto promised he would try to be back by then. He then ended the call because he had to get back to work. Without Patricia knowing, her husband was actually with another woman there, none other than her own friend, Rebecca. Meanwhile, a few days later, Miguel gave his mother a jewelry gift for her birthday, and Patricia was very happy with the present. Miguel then told her to get ready to go out to dinner with him and Amanda. But Patricia was surprised when, shortly after she finished getting ready, Miguel had prepared another surprise for her. Downstairs, he had a birthday party with his friends, complete with a DJ and food. Pablo then approached Patricia and asked her to toast, saying he regretted that Humberto had let Patricia celebrate her birthday without him. Pablo also tried to seduce Patricia again until she agreed to sleep with him that night. After that, Patricia felt guilty for betraying her husband and child. That day, Humberto came home late at night and brought flowers for Patricia. She didn't expect him to come home, but her husband had kept his promise. Humberto tried to express his longing for Patricia, but she claimed to be tired and refused his invitation. The next day, Lionel received an update on the case involving his wife's video. He finally discovered the identity of the male actor Pablo. He also learned that Pablo was a student and had a hobby of making adult videos with other women and selling the recordings. Meanwhile, Patricia went to Pablo's apartment. She was confused when a girl named Lola opened the door, but Lola quickly left. Pablo told her that Lola was just a friend, so Patricia didn't need to worry or feel jealous. It seemed that Patricia hadn't truly felt guilty after sleeping with Pablo the previous night. Now, she had come to repeat the same mistake. After that, Patricia told Pablo that she had never cheated on him with another man before, so she asked him to have a secret relationship with her without rushing things. A moment later, she left because she had a consultation appointment. On the other hand, Dolores tried to escape from her husband, claiming she was going to her sister's house to celebrate her niece's birthday. But suddenly, Lionel took out a photo of Pablo and accused her of wanting to meet him. Dolores immediately denied it and insisted she had to go to her niece's party, but Lionel pressed Dolores to tell him where Pablo lived. Dolores still refused to admit the truth and only said she had met Pablo online, so Lionel threatened to beat her if she dared to meet Pablo in secret. Meanwhile, Humberto's mistress, Rebecca, had instructed Pablo to seduce and sleep with Patricia. When they meet, Pablo admits he slept with her twice and now wants payment, but Rebecca refuses to pay until she sees proof. Rebecca eventually asks Pablo to help convince Humberto that his wife is unfaithful. Pablo doesn't want to get involved further, especially if it leads to a divorce, but Rebecca tells him to continue with their plan and keep his opinions to himself. On the other hand, Humberto does feel that his wife is drifting away from him. She often refuses to sleep with him, but Patricia keeps making excuses and claims she's tired. Humberto confides in Rebecca, saying he feels his wife is distant. Even when he tries to talk to her, she seems not to be listening. Rebecca only smiled and said that Patricia was cheating on him, but Humberto didn't believe her, insisting that Patricia wasn't the type of woman to be unfaithful. Rebecca then suggested they get a divorce, but Humberto refused to listen, feeling that their 3 years of marriage had been happy and he didn't want to change that. Meanwhile, Patricia met with Pablo again in secret, but this time, Pablo admitted he had a surprise for Patricia. He closed Patricia's eyes before they slept together and told her he had recorded it, promising to keep it a secret. Upon arriving home, Patricia didn't expect Humberto to invite her out for dinner alone. He said Miguel was staying at Amanda's house, so they had time alone. However, Patricia wasn't very enthusiastic about the idea and again claimed she was tired. Not giving up, Humberto invited Patricia on a surprise vacation, but Patricia refused again and said she had a patient appointment on Saturday. Humberto finally gave up and accused Patricia of cheating on him. Here, Patricia still tried to deny it, even though Humberto asked her to be honest, or at least tell him why she had been distant lately. Back to Pablo, he gave the intimate video of him and Patricia to Rebecca, but he didn't want to get involved if Patricia ended up choosing Humberto. Rebecca thought it was because the payment was insufficient, so she offered to pay Pablo double, but Pablo refused. He didn't want to take Rebecca's money anymore because he had fallen in love with Patricia. When Pablo meets Patricia again, he is not prepared to hear her decision to meet him. Patricia confesses that she wants to repair her marriage with Humberto. She never said she no longer loved Humberto, and her relationship with Pablo was merely an attraction. Pablo assumes Patricia doesn't feel the same way about him, accusing her of playing with him, and they end their relationship that night. However, Patricia's problems were just beginning. Humberto eventually found out about her affair with Pablo, who he knew was their son's friend. Patricia told Humberto that she had just ended their relationship, but Humberto was still disappointed in Patricia. He then left with the suitcase he had prepared before Patricia arrived. After leaving the house, Humberto was no longer interested in Rebecca and continued to ignore her calls. Meanwhile, Pablo, who wasn't ready to be left by Patricia, went to her house. Pablo told Miguel that his mother had promised to lend him a book, so he hurried upstairs because Miguel said his mother was reading there. Patricia was very surprised to see Pablo, and she tried to kick him out, but Pablo refused. Just then, Humberto returned and beat Pablo until he fell into the pool. Upon returning to the apartment, Pablo was shocked to see Dolores' husband had managed to get his address. Leonel immediately struck Pablo, leaving him unconscious. After satisfying his rage, Leonel left. Since then, Patricia and Humberto's relationship has returned to harmony. 6 months later, Patricia published a new book, and she and Humberto were once again like a newlywed couple.